Okay, thanks, George. All right, everyone, welcome to the Thursday, January 9th, 2025 Town of Monroe Planning Board Workshop Meeting. This is actually going to be our one meeting for the month of January. Noreen, would you please do roll call?
Bonnie Franson.
Present.
Jeff Manson.
Present.
Pat Shea.
Present.
Dylan Penn.
Here.
Lou Rivera is out, and Bob Garstack is out.
Just before I point out the exits, there was an open planning board member seat, which has been filled by Bob. So Bob is gone from an alternate to a full-time member, and Lou remains our alternate, and there's one alternate position open at this point. So I will point out the fire exits. There are two in front of me and to the rear of the audience, another to my left out the main door, and then another to this side where the patio is. With that, let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. All right, first items on our agenda are appointments. We need to make 3 of those. So we need to appoint a deputy chairperson for 2025. Is there anyone who wants to make a nomination of a member, or does anyone want to offer to be?
Nominate Jeff.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So with that, roll call vote for us to appoint Jeff Manson. Jeff, would you like to accept? We'll appoint.
Oops. No, he doesn't. Bonnie Franson.
We would find out if you voted no. Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Dylan Penn.
Aye.
Jeff, you want to vote?
Aye.
All right. So congratulations, Deputy Chairperson for 2025. With that, the next item on our agenda is to appoint our Planning Board Attorney. I will recommend that we continue to work with Ashley and her firm, Naughton and Torrey, for the year 2025. May I have a second?
Second.
Maureen?
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Dylan Penn.
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
And with that, next item on the agenda is appointing our Planning Board 5. I recommend that we continue utilizing Sean Arnott and McGoey Hauser and Edsel as our Planning Board engineer. 5. May I have a second?
Second.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Dylan Penn.
Aye.
You're very welcome. I see you got a haircut.
I did.
All right, so to our projects. Returning projects are Contract Superior Packing, Bailey Farm Road. If you want to come on up to the seats here, let us know where we are. And we do have our attorney available via Zoom. I know that there's been some movement with regard to wetlands, et cetera. Okay, you'll just need pull forward.
There we go, sorry. My name is John First. I'm an attorney at Catania Mann and Ryder. We represent the applicants. I have with me the engineer, Tom Beard. He's going to kind of talk into some more of the details, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update since it's been a while since we last appeared before the board. We were back before this board in June of 2024. And one of the things that was discussed was the possible variable buffer. So there are some wetlands on the property. They are, to this point, they're just federal wetlands, but the town has its own wetland regulations which require a buffer. And according to the town's regulations, they do permit a variable buffer with the definition. So that was kind of discussed at the last meeting. And since that last meeting, Tom has been discussing it with your wetland consultant. And we've also been kind of going over this and figuring this out with our clients. So we finally came up with a plan showing a variable buffer, and we presented a letter last month, the end of last month, which we then supplemented at the as well right before the new year, to kind of justify why we think in this situation a variable buffer will work and protect the wetland and honestly be the least impactful. So I'll have Tom kind of summarize the letter, and I don't know if your wetland consultant is on the phone too?
They are
Perfect.
here, yes.
Awesome. So I guess Tom can kind of summarize his letter and the maps. If you want to pull them up, or I don't know if you guys usually pull them up, but.
So is it variable buffer revision 1?
Variable
right?
wetland buffer, yes, no, that would. No, I think that's,
Definitely variable wetland buffer, recommended buffer expand.
no, that didn't say,
Other.
there we go. That's the latest there, thank you. So, thank you for your time. I'm Tom Baird from Barton and LaJudas. And working with doing a site layout that has minimal impact. We looked at a lot of things, and with that is also the truck traffic, site distance, and that. So originally, we had looked to move the driveway on Bailey Farm Road more to the west. As if you're not familiar, it starts to rise as you go to the west there. And with that grade there, the steepness of it for getting the trucks in and out wasn't going to work, just with the grades and inclement weather and so forth. And then there's a reduction in sight distance as well as you move up that way to the development that's up there. So another thing too is I do a lot of work with noise analysis, and I know that moving the trucks closer to the development up there could cause an issue, so we wanted to keep that as far away as possible as well. I do not believe that will be a noise impact at that location right there, but with all those factors involved, we really felt the driveway needed to be located where it is as best for all those things, and primarily safety is the thing. So from the plan, you can see the green area there. There's quite a distance to the wetland in that location, so it would have been ideal to move that driveway to the west a little bit more to get out of that. So we went through the process of providing the square footage for the building and allowing for parking and for the trucks to have easy access and routing behind the building. We originally did a wetland delineation. It was submitted to John Graves, and John Graves and our staff met out there in the field and went over the wetland location, and that small piece that kind of juts out towards the building was kind of added to the wetland delineation as potential soils and some of the plant life that is there. So that moved forward. So with that, we looked at possibly doing mitigation, which is in the open area more towards the left by the property line. It's about 14,000 square feet there. So if we were to have a minor impact by being so close to the wetland there, we would look at establishing a wetland and making that continuous back there. But with that comes going through an established forested wetland, which would be ruined getting access to restore wetlands. So creating a wetland by impacting wetlands didn't seem like the logical thing to do. And John agreed with that, and I believe we talked to Sean about that a little bit as well. So we came up with the idea is that if we could establish an even greater wetland buffer and come up with just a minor variation in a few areas, as you can see on there, really tight by the 34 feet, and have an overall average buffer that would be greater than just a 100-foot buffer, we could get this to work. So our intent here and what we will do in order to keep the intent of the wetland buffer is to protect the wetland, is to make sure that the stormwater is 100% treated before it even gets close to the buffer. So water entering that narrow section of buffer would be treated 100% by infiltration practices or bioretention, according to the stormwater manual for DEC. So therefore, we wouldn't have an impact on the buffer and therefore not the wetland there. So with that, we're looking to achieve a variance in having a variable wetland buffer through here, and having your approval with that, just because of the site conditions and the safety factors you mentioned about moving the driveway more to the west.
Yeah, I think for the topo reasons, the driveway has to be moved further to the east. The further west you go, there's a higher grade. So we were trying to avoid, shifting the construction into that corner, and we thought it would be better to kind of keep it away from there because of the topography.
So,
So, do we want to speak to John and Ashley first, or do you want to add anything, Sean?
Yes, if John started. Main point to this conversation is for
Okay. John, do you want to go through what the thinking is?
Sure. So what we recommended, or would suggest is, actually, can I share my screen? Well, I don't know, do you have a figure up that shows what we were proposing?
I have a figure up that is showing the green area.
Okay, does it have the red on it too, or no?
It doesn't, that was actually, but I do have that image as well.
Okay, I can just share my screen.
So I have the one with the red up at this point.
Okay, good. So what we were recommending to the board would be to, in addition to the green buffer area, basically include the rest of the uplands surrounding the wetland within the property as protected buffer. And as part of that, to put a conservation easement on it to prevent future potential development or encroachments into those areas. And at it going up in the top corner, or the top part of it, where the access road from the proposed development to Bailey Farm Road, we pulled that back a little bit to allow sight distance for the incoming and outgoing traffic, which was a concern raised by Barton and LaJudas and the applicant in their. Oh, we kind of allow some vegetation. But that's the just what we would recommend. Uplands.
So I'm looking at this map, and it would mean that the buffer expansion includes area within the village of Harriman.
If, yeah, I mean, that property. If Harriman, find it within.
I think we'd have to consult with them. I look at the map, the and all the way up property line. Red area, but the red area seems to go beyond the property line, unless I'm misreading this. Is that a building setback line, and
I
then
think it is the
and
first
then
line.
there's a property line?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was my thinking anyway. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but right here it says building setback line for this line, and then this farther line, I was assuming it's the property line. I think it has a PL on it, yeah, right there. So, we were just suggesting having it going out to the property line. Doesn't have to be to that extent if it's a big problem, but it's just what we figured, any of the upland within the property surrounding that wetland.
What's happening in the area that's by the access road, and it's sort of a triangular area that's not included? Is that upland or?
Right here?
Yes.
This is upland, yeah, and this is
Definitely
what I was talking about, to allow good sight distance. Because the applicant in their recent submittal identified, not putting buffer here because of sight distances.
Okay,
So that's why this corner isn't shaded.
All right. So with that, Sean, do you have any comments on this recommendation?
Yes, I agree that it's a good idea to include that additional area, except that we should get input from the applicant as to grading and stormwater discharges, as to whether or not there wouldn't be any improvements in those buffer areas, and those should be excluded should they need to install pipe or do some grading in that red shaded area.
Or the stormwater management techniques aren't going to be your typical basins. They need to be something maybe with a,
Well, I think the applicant indicated they'll be under pavement.
okay?
Either under the pavement or immediately adjacent to it with a dry swale, using an under drain infiltration with basically bioretention soil for anything coming off the road. And then discharging that cleanly into the upland area or the new buffer, or carrying it down south more towards the Village of Harriman area, where we would have some infiltration if necessary.
Right, so, right, that's my concern, that if you're going to discharge in the Village of Harriman area, I wouldn't want to include the buffer area, and then you have it disturbed for
Right.
the improvements.
Right.
So,
So I know there's not a 100-foot buffer requirement in the Village of Harriman, so that area there, right behind the parking towards the south, was kind of our backup area for any other stormwater treatment that, may be difficult due to the soils. Right now, it's going to be a little challenging for a lot of infiltration. That's why we're thinking of linear bioretention. And then that area back there would be some storage if necessary underground for slower infiltration. Understanding we don't have the buffer requirement in the village, but we definitely don't want any direct discharges into that area. Everything will be taken underground and infiltrated. So,
I'd like to know what the actual calculation of 100-foot, because you're saying there's a variable buffer. I'd like to know what the area would be if you had to preserve the 100-foot buffer versus what you're preserving. Do you have that calculation? Is it somewhere?
Yeah, I thought we put that in the letter, but I could be mistaken.
yeah, it's
Okay.
very close. It's in here. It's 61,000 versus 60,500.
And that includes,
No, that's just in the town.
just the green.
okay,
just in the town.
so
Yes.
the village would be on top of that.
So 61,400 square feet with the variable buffer, understanding that there's more than 100 feet of buffer on the northern section there. And it would be 60,532 with just a 100-foot buffer.
132 square.
Yeah, we tried to keep it as close as possible.
I mean, from my perspective, is the other side required buffer as well? Because you're showing, I'm just trying to understand this map. Is that showing the wetland and the buffer already in the hatch pattern, the gray hatch pattern?
The gray hatch pattern is the wetland,
Okay.
and the green is the proposed wetland buffer.
So wouldn't there be a buffer
And to the north.
that actual buffer as,
That's buffer, but we're not building anything in that area, so it
Okay.
stays as existing. So nothing will be touched over there.
right, so I guess I don't see those necessarily as an expansion of a buffer because it's actually required.
I think what's being suggested by the wetland specialist and Sean is that becomes a conservation easement, so you can't build on it. We don't have any intention of doing anything in that section, but just to preserve that. So we have that surrounding buffer is what you're proposing.
It's a level above the buffer, right? The buffer would require town planning board approval, and John is suggesting that it be conservation easement, so it is a deed restriction on the property.
To work with the variable buffer. So between the two of them, we get a good level of protection and comfort for that wetland.
That's part of. So although I appreciate the conservation easement, that adds an additional layer of protection. And I also appreciate I question the level of benefit. I think a lot. So I don't know. Except for perhaps where you have,
Correct.
wherever you have any above the 100.
Correct, that's the
Correct.
point.
Right.
Is to make it thicker in some points. Unfortunately, there's a couple of areas where there's little jet outs of the wetlands, so that's where we kind of come into the problem. There's a couple little arms that stick out towards the building. So that's where it gets short. We're 30, and so we're, in some instances, we're 34 feet, but in a lot of other instances, we're over 130 feet.
So I think from a map perspective, shows what's the 100, below the 100, above the 100. And you may have that map, but colorized, because this one, again, there's things being expressed as recommended buffer expansion that I think are just part of the 100-foot buffer. If you were to include, for instance,
Yeah.
if you were to include the Village of Harriman, if they went along with that, that would be an expansion. It would happen to be in another jurisdiction, but if you do conservation easement and you don't touch it and they don't have a buffer requirement, then I see that as an expansion. So I just kind of want to get some of the red area that's, again, on the west side, to me is not buffer expansion. It is part of a buffer.
It is, and that's a diagram that Mr. Graves put together. We did not put that together.
Okay,
That's the
Yeah.
suggestion from Mr. Graves.
Yeah, our calculations only include the green.
Yes.
okay.
Our recommend,
So here, what I guess I would like to see in a map, what's the 100 feet? And then what is in addition? So for instance, you have the area that's 135. I'd like to see a narrow band of 35 because that's actually what's being added versus what's being taken away. That's not, that in my mind is not being represented yet. And I can speak to you more about this, John, if you create this image, just to more accurately portray what is and isn't the variable buffer.
yeah, Barton and Judas would do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is their figure, their figure, we just,
Right, and just so the code specifically, when
Okay.
it defines the buffer, it does say there's flexibility where it can be more, it could be less. So it's not a straight line 100 feet.
So there was another figure with our submission that has this area, and that has a line of definitively just 100 feet off the wetland, and what that line would look like. And
Off.
from the wetland to be the buffer, correct. Can I bring this up? Yep, yeah. Correct. So the hatched area is the wetland, and then the green is purely 100 feet from the edge of the wetland. And what we've done is expand that 100 feet up to the 135 to create more of a greater buffer. So that would be the requirement as black and white of the code saying it's 100 feet.
But this is showing that 100 feet
Correct.
part of the wetland. In other words, you're not measuring the 100 feet from the notch in this. You're measuring it from
100
somewhere.
feet from there, that area would be impacted, that if we went purely with 100 feet.
Okay, so to me, this isn't showing 100 feet go around, so the 100 feet.
Correct, and actually into the building
Right,
itself.
as well as somewhere in here too.
So under that option, we propose to take that 4,000 square feet or so, and we would make 14,000 square feet of what replacement wetland in that tan area. And when speaking with John, that goes back to we'd have to get in there to do that, we'd have disturbance, and we didn't think that that was appropriate.
Yeah,
And clearing, yeah. I mean, it would
And
grow back, but
oftentimes, frankly, wetland mitigation areas aren't as successful as
Exactly.
the original thing.
I've been through that myself many times.
So, okay.
That's what we
I
thought
think
to
we
have.
need to digest these some more, but I think we're showing, again, I don't think we're quite showing, at least in these images, these colorized images, what the 100 feet is, and then what it's being, you showed what the neck down is, but what is the 100 feet? I mean, a good chunk of it is shown now. But the problem is, the 100 feet isn't accurately shown where it's not being measured from the actual wetland. So you're gonna have, again, this area that would extend into the proposed building expansion, and then another area down by the tractor trailer parking area, just because of the variability of that wetland line and how it's jutting out.
Okay, so you'd like to see the 100-foot line from the exact edge of the
The
wetland?
wetland, yes.
Okay,
Just kind of seem the buffer to protect the wetland, or take away the wetland here, build it somewhere else only to buffer backwards. And
correct, and that's why we've gone away from that option.
yeah,
Yeah, I just want to start with the baseline of,
I know. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that this plan to me is kind of counterintuitive. You're protecting the buffer rather than the wetland.
correct. Right, agreed.
Right.
So, and I would, me as one board member, the mitigation area, I understand that it probably doesn't make sense. Us to be, but I don't know that.
It's forested wetland, so it doesn't make sense, no. And, in the spirit of what we're all trying to do here is to preserve environment, I think it definitely doesn't make sense to do this one.
So one of the things I want to ask both the wetland scientists,
More or less, yes.
that's okay. So we have the new DEC regulations that came out, and what's applying, because this is floodplain area, I believe.
It's an
And
urban area,
it's
yeah.
probably urban area. I thought that the Ramapo has a floodplain here, it may not. But this is sort of, this is Ramapo, isn't it?
Yeah, this is
associated with
not in the floodplain though here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So being the urban area, what's going to happen?
Yeah, my review of the regulation is that there won't be any impact to this layout here for this wetland itself.
Have a DEC buffer around this?
No, I'm going through with the DEC regulations that they're not going to go out and reestablish any of these limits, and this one wouldn't be impacted because of the size of it. So, based on what I've seen and read so far, but we can certainly give you a document that shows that.
It's not going to be a straight answer until you actually sit down with the DEC and
That's the
figure
point.
out whether it's a wetland of unusual importance.
Right, exactly.
Whatever that means.
Right.
The good thing when they used to have the maps was good because it was black and white. It's a
Right.
wetland, it's not a wetland. Now that they have these 11 criteria, whatever it is, you don't really know. But I think what Tom is saying, he's kind of reviewed the criteria, and he doesn't think it's going to trigger any additional regulation from the DEC, but we're not going to know until we sit down with them, for sure.
Proposing a general So this is so new.
To the wetland buffer or both?
Days.
Just
To the wetland or the buffer or both?
I don't know.
I don't think
Plug into the
DEC knows.
general permit, yeah.
They're still trying to figure it out.
Well, and the urban area, the wetland language says in an urban area or adjacent. What does adjacent mean? Like touching it? Mile?
My
Okay.
thought would be that this probably would be taken as state wetland. If, its current size now is almost large enough to be state wetland, but the state didn't take it. But size aside, it is an urban area. If it's in a floodplain, if it's in a mapped floodplain, it's definitely going to be a state wetland. Well, I shouldn't say definitely, but one of the floodplain.
Yeah, I know,
But it's still going to have the only difference is buffer on it.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I guess the worst case scenario is
We need a permit.
getting a permit.
right, I was gonna check, because I know DEC and the Environmental Resource Mapper was already adding, wetlands.
They're, I think they call them something like formerly mapped wetlands, and it's just a guide.
Right, and then they have informational freshwater wetland mapping, they're calling it. So, there you have it. I think this is, I understood that this is suggesting where they're looking at additional wetlands as potential DEC wetlands. So ultimately, we're not going to figure this out. I think we have to have a conversation, you have to have a conversation with New York State DEC to see what they're gonna allow and what requirements may come into play, or if you need any kind of permit, and if there is such a thing as a general permit. We're gonna have to take care of that, so.
They do have, I was just reading about the general permit, and I don't know that it can be used for industrial developments. If it's the same general permit you were thinking of. It allows a tenth of an acre up to a tenth of an acre of wetland impact and up to a tenth of an acre of adjacent area impact, but I think an exclusion was for large-scale commercial developments or industrial developments.
That it wasn't going to apply to those types
Correct.
of, okay.
Correct.
So then it's gonna be a regular DEC permit?
Yes.
Okay. Again, I think we have to find this all out and
Agreed.
see where they're going with this.
Yeah, we understand that we may need a permit from the DEC for disturbing the wetland buffer.
Or, yeah,
So,
work within the buffer.
right, so, specific to the buffer discussion, do the planning board members have any comments or questions?
My question is this, it's less about the wisdom of the variable buffer, and my concern is more, are there stormwater protections that are really, the buffer is being proposed very close to the access road, and it doesn't seem to leave a lot of room for stormwater improvements. I mean, we haven't seen actually what they're gonna be. I know you're proposing ideas, but I don't know if this question is best for Sean. Does it seem feasible that with that small strip of land between the road and the wetland buffer, that you could do the type of improvements that are needed to keep not only the wetlands safe, but the buffer safe, as you're stating that your intention is?
Honestly, I don't know if I can answer that question without grading, without topography on the plan, so.
I think that's where my concern comes in. So I'm going to want to see a little bit more concrete information on that, so
Okay.
we can make that determination as well.
So if I understand correctly, to get a little more specific on the methods of stormwater treatment before you approve the variable buffer and the water that will enter it?
Well, I think that, in reading your letter, part of what you're stating is that you're going to be able to manage the stormwaters to keep it both out of the wetlands and out of the buffer. I'd like to see a little bit more detail about how, specifically so our engineer could look at it and say,
Sure.
okay, yep, this seems feasible, like, it's possible.
I have 3 different ways to accomplish it, so it'll be
Okay.
no problem to send it to you.
Thanks.
So, all right. Yeah.
I think the other question I would have is, what is above and beyond what you would normally have to do? Because what you're sort of expressing is that it sounds like it's going to be almost more polishing for water quality, but is it really just whatever DEC requires for stormwater management?
Now, DEC requires the 90% storm, 90% storm. So here it's, I think, about 1.2 inches, somewhere in that range like that. So we would propose to treat much more than that, double that. So we'll have double the requirement of the water quality volume that would be treated. So in other words, what they're saying, the most of the storms are an inch, 1.2 inches or less, 90% of them. That's the water that's required to be treated. If you have a 2-inch rain, they don't require you to treat that other 0.8 inches. So the bigger storms aren't necessarily required to be treated by the practices. So the practices that we would put in here would treat double the minimum required water quality volume. So you would have a much better, for instance, for New York State DEC, we kept 2 inches of rain in a 24-hour period to treat at their facility in Lake George. We can handle 5 inches of rain treated in the system. That was above and beyond the minimum requirements. So that's just a large example, but the same thing would apply here to give you that comfort of the protection of the wetland through the wetland buffer and the more robust stormwater management that's required by DEC. So,
But the number, flush, so there's less.
The assumption is that most of the pollutants are flushed away in that first flush, but I'm not going to guarantee you that all the rainwater is going to wash off all the pollutants, so. Some benefit to additional water quality volume treatment, sure.
Although the magnitude of it may not be as significant because you've already handled the first one.
Probably 90% water quality volume. I made up the 90%, but
you're right. That's pretty close, yeah. And one thing to remember too is that a lot of the pollutants, they don't get completely treated all the time, and they get pushed out and they sit around for a while. So by being able to bring more water into it and have more capacity in the system, there's more time for that treatment to occur and less chance that it gets washed downstream. If you have a sump in a catch basin and you have a lot of debris in it, it's great for the small rainstorms, but if the sump is deeper, it'll handle the larger ones too. So it's kind of it's a belt and suspenders on the minimum requirement. And we've seen it work very, very well over the last 20 years on many, many projects. So I'll be more than happy to provide details for what we would do in this to show you that. So.
Other thought is, with snow removal, that from,
Yeah, if for salt or a brine solution or something that's put down there, that's why we really want to go with some infiltration practices. And my intent here, if we do have a slower rate of infiltration, is to provide more capacity for it to be stored. And saline solution of salt is very difficult. You can't really filter it. You've got to have it break down and get infiltrated into the soil. That's how we do it. So there would be the extra capacity for that to happen. That's part of the wetland buffer too. That's why they're important to have, is for that as well. But this road won't be, it'll be utilized every day, but it's not a regular roadway. I'm not sure how much salt they'll put down, but we can also look at making sure they plow the snow into one location and not, I've been plowing snow since I was 16, so you get the windrow off to the side, but that main push in front of the blade will get that all the way down. It's tough to say, but the infiltration will take care of the salt. So.
Regarding the wetlands or.
polygon. Buffer, I know it's not, because there's nowhere else on. For preservation. That's where we're coming.
No, nothing.
So this isn't related to the wetlands, but can you speak to truck traffic and circulation? Because as the building expands, it pushes. I'd like to understand the implications to noise.
We have not done a noise study for this yet. The traffic that's it's primarily going to come in off Bailey Farm Road and circulate through the loading docks and come back out to the existing entrance. There will be very few vehicles, if all, coming out of there with the trucks. And, going up grade certainly increases the noise, because for a truck, it's out of the stacks, not the wheels, tires. So that, the reason why we wanted to keep that driveway as far away as possible from up there. Yet, noise will be looked at if is necessary, once we get the layout correctly done and we figure out the buffer and circulation pattern. We'd like, hopefully it can stay very similar to what's here, and we can make that work. But we haven't done the noise study as of yet until we get a site plan layout that's pretty confidently in place.
I think the concern is that the loading docks are currently on the southeast side. Now you're going to be moving them to the southwest, where all the noise is generated by the trucks, and it's being pushed back to the residences on that side, so.
So
Correct.
I'm looking at this image, which I assume is accurate. So right now, are there docks here, or are the docks here? Or is this just trailer parking in the back?
That's just trailer parking in the back.
Okay, so this is where the docks are, at present on the existing building,
And I think there's a couple along the side as well.
along
Yep.
over here?
Right over there, yes.
Okay, so then if we look at this is the existing building. So the docks are off of this?
They'll still be there.
All right, so there's still gonna be docks here, but you're adding additional docks on this side.
Correct, and storage.
What is happening?
Access road, yes.
So why is this, again, needed? Is it because you need 2 points of access? Or, in other words, if this is where the loading docks are and they've been coming in this way, why can't they continue around and maneuver? Fire purposes?
We need a road around the building, definitely. So
Fire?
For fire, yes, definitely for fire. And we want to try to make that one way, and to improve the circulation in there as well.
So one way will be Bailey
Farm,
Bailey
correct,
Farm,
coming
sorry,
south.
coming in this way.
Correct.
So all of them will now circulate this way?
No, they'll still be using the front entrance as well, but the vehicles that come from different directions. And we have the traffic study about 75% done. Again, we're waiting for the final layout of this to do that. Yeah, from the front entrance.
From the main existing entrance.
Okay.
Also, trucks will still enter there.
They'll still enter there, but they won't be allowed to exit?
No,
They'll be allowed to exit
from
too.
the existing entrance, they're still going to exit and enter. It's just from Bailey, the new proposed is just an entrance only. So trucks will still be coming in and out from the existing entrance, but the new proposed entrance, they're only going to be coming in.
Is this two-way then? Separate lane?
We need to have two-way traffic on there for emergency reasons, and if somebody gets turned around and needs to go out that way. That other driveway on Bailey Farm Road is also to allow vans that have commuters to come to work at the factory. They can get dropped off at the opening. That's the parking area that you see to the right there. So they can come in and out of there and not get mixed in with the truck traffic.
Are you talking about over here?
Correct. Yeah. So employee drop off.
But this looks like people will park there.
There will be parking spaces, yeah. They'll have a number of vans that are waiting for people to end their shift, and then vans coming in for the new shift. So we wanted to make sure that there wasn't any kind of blockage in there, especially for any emergency equipment, and have circulation, so vehicles can pull off to the side into a parking spot while they're waiting or dropping off.
So if you're saying vans and other,
No, not through there, just,
okay, so this is,
correct.
they will have to go out this way.
The trucks, tractor
The
trailers,
tractor
yes.
trailers will come in. So the reason I'm asking is, does it have to be 25 feet?
I believe that's the minimum for the
Is it,
town.
if this part of it were one way, does it have to be 28?
26 for fire.
Okay, so we could put 26 for 5.
Right.
Right, yeah, so you can have a fire truck parked in a lane and still be able to get around that fire truck in the other lane, so that's
Aerial apparatus access road, that has to be 26 foot wide.
26? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 28 on there, so,
Have you communicated?
not yet, no.
Will be fine. Building code's one thing, but we should find out what,
Absolutely, and we've allowed some flexibility towards the building to provide a little more width if we had to, so.
way with the truck instead of coming out this far.
To not have to have the trucks come through that direction?
So when they enter from Bailey, could they have entered a little farther east, further away? Or is there some,
There's a retaining wall there.
This is the-
So, yeah, there's a narrow area where the driveway is that we meet with a slope that kind of flattens a little bit, and then it starts to go and change again to a very high retaining wall. So we already have we've got to put retaining walls up just to make that work the way it is right now. We'll be extending a retaining wall. That's the dark black line. I wish there was, no. No, we tried. That's existing, yes. Mhm.
all right, well, we'll obviously have to look. So why don't we go to, I guess, Sean, your comments and,
So I didn't provide any comments because we were just talking about the wetlands, and
Okay.
John was reviewing those, so.
Bill and engineer.
Yes, so we were trying to figure out
Concrete.
the wetland buffer issue first before we got you all the engineering details, including the traffic, the lighting, the landscaping, reaching out and confirming all the fire and emergency access stuff.
Good turn on.
Closer.
So yeah, we're trying to figure out the wetland buffer issue first before we start providing all the details, the lighting, the landscaping, and the traffic report and everything else, and then having a full set of engineering plans.
All right, so I think we have to absorb this.
Yeah, I think I've got a list of some things we need to come back to, so that way you guys can make your preliminary decision or decision on the variable buffer, whatever it is. So I think, we'll come back and hopefully try to make a submission for next month.
Yeah, and beneficial.
Absolutely.
Because jurisdiction will be, they may have affects this, so I think it'd be that they're going, what they're going to do.
Okay, if we could just be clear, what we're looking for from them, because they won't give us a permit or a determination on a permit till they have final plans or something that's very close to final and input from the town, usually. We'll get a vague answer. We'll kind of need this, kind of need that. Is that going to be acceptable? Because I don't think we'll get a real defined answer from them until we're much further in the process.
I'd like to know, will it be regulated by DEC?
Okay.
So then,
Right,
will
fair
they
enough.
have a 100-foot buffer? And then, I don't know at this point, it used to be that they would come out and flag wetlands. I suspect that's not happening. So
No,
are they going to?
They were asked for that. They were asked to do that already, and they declined.
Right, so are they going to then just rely on this delineation and say, okay, this is the delineation, and now add a 100-foot adjacent area to it? And then, based on that, they'll have to make a determination how much impact there is to the buffer area, to the adjacent area. So I'm not asking for them to tell you they can or can't permit this. I'm just trying to understand their jurisdiction, and then where is their regulatory area first,
Okay.
okay?
Right. We'll try to get a sense of whether they have jurisdiction, and if they do, how they feel about this potential request.
Is it a flat out no?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it a flat out no, or is this something they would entertain?
Yeah, we'll
Right,
try to get an idea. I mean,
right.
we can't do anything until we get deck and all that stuff, but,
Mhm.
we can try to track somebody down, have a conversation, and see how they feel about it, check the temperature.
So new, so it'd be a good little case study. Fortunately for you, but beneficial for us. All right,
Yeah.
anything else? Ashley, anything else?
No, nothing else for me.
Okay. And John, anything else? You're good?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's it for this particular application. Thank you, John, for joining us.
Thank you.
And Ashley will continue to hang in there for us. Remain on the line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
All right. 9407 Springs Road, if you want to come on up. Good evening. Happy New Year. If you could use that mic, that one may be
I
problematic.
just turned it off, so. No, the one that,
The one you're using, if you would turn
I
it
think
back
he
on.
turned it off, yeah. Nope.
Okay. So do you want to let us know where you are in the process?
Yes, my name is Shlomi Gelb from Hartman Design for the project 94-7 Springs. With the last meeting, we scheduled to draft a resolution, and we have discussed about the landscaping, and we have received 2 days ago comments for the landscaping, which we didn't have a chance now to address, and it will be addressed upon the signage of the site plan. And one more item is the delegation of the road, which we straightened out that it will be on the agenda January 21 for the town to vote to take over to accept the delegation of the road. And we hope tonight to have a vote on the project.
So with that, Sean, any remaining comments?
So the applicant did not submit a new set of plans this month, so I worked with Ashley Ashley did all the work, I just did the resolution.
So I saw you had done edits, but I don't know that I got a final one. Ashley, did you send a final one?
No, it would just be the version that Sean had
No.
sent. He added in the dates for the latest.
I wasn't sure if you were up the changes. All right, so I'm going to bring up 94 Road. Before I do that, board members, any comments on the application?
Everyone had a
We received the comments and we're gonna propose, we're gonna take care of, we're gonna make sure to address all the comments, all the suggestions, what they ask for to do.
And Dennis had coordinated with Karen to make sure that they agreed on all the recommendations.
We have, so with that, we do have a resolution of approval for a site plan and special use permit for 94 Seven Springs LLC. Just pull this up a little bit. Allow the property to be used for a two-family detached dwelling. Applicant will remove the existing building remains and construct a new 10,542 square foot two-family dwelling with associated improvements, including modifying the existing driveway. Dwelling's going to be served by an existing on-site well and a new subsurface sewage disposal system. And then a portion of the property located within the town's right-of-way is proposed to be dedicated to the town. The property involved is at 94 Seven Springs Road, and the tax parcel designation is 1-1-14. Again, it's in the SR10 Suburban Residential Zoning District and the 2FO two-family overlay zone. The resolution does a recitation of the plans that have been received to date. Application was first filed with the planning board in June 29, 2023. We did have a public hearing in December, which was closed at that time. The application is a type 2 action under SECRA. And this is exempt from Orange County Planning Department review under general municipal law. This was referred to the Village of Curious Joel and Town of Palm Tree as per GML Review 239NN. Our findings, and these are general findings with regard to special use permits. The specific findings with regard to this proposed two-family detached dwelling special use permit. So the engineer has verified the wastewater disposal system design is adequate. Only one driveway shared by both dwelling units. Driveway width will not exceed 24 feet at any point within the front yard. No grading removal of natural vegetation for the first 50% of the required front yard closest to the front lot line. An applicant is proposing new trees, required to maintain all plantings in a healthy and vibrant condition as a condition of the approval. did conduct our architectural review of the project. And presents a proper case for requiring a park or parks. However, there is not adequate size to accommodate one on this property, so we find that this project requires a payment of a fee in lieu of providing parkland. Public improvements are not necessary. And then we get into the specific conditions, subject to final engineering review of the plan set. Applicant shall revise the plans to incorporate the changes suggested in the MCC report and the memo from Planning Board Landscape Consultant Karen Arndt. And then there's a series of following map notes, changing the title of sheet 4, elevations to be revised to update the lighting fixtures consistent with the specification sheets, payment of the fee in lieu of land, filing of an irrevocable offer of dedication with regard to the right-of-way, town parkland account fee $750 per tree. The applicant must comply with DEC tree removal restrictions as a result of the presence or potential presence of the Indiana bat and northern long-eared bat. On the design as shown in the elevations that we'd received. Dark sky compliant lighting's required. Other replacement requirements for the vegetation and landscaping.
Honey, I just wanted to make sure you saw there was.
Yes. That's number 9. Thank you. Study no disturbances beyond what is shown on the site plan. Building permit issued down until the apartment curb cut permit has been issued. No C of O until all improvements in landscaping are complete and installed. No C of O until you get a highway curb cut permit. No other outdoor fixtures or other structures allowed without approval of the planning board or the building inspector. And then there are our standard conditions attached to this. So with that, I will make a motion that we approve this special use permit and the site plan for 94 Seven Springs LLC. May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Dylan Penn.
Aye.
Thank you.
With that, the motion carries. It's approved. And so you'll work with Sean, coordinate with him to get the plans in order to a point where we can sign them.
Thank you so much.
And if there's questions about this preliminary tree cutting, again, coordinate with Sean and the building inspector.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank
You're
you
very
for the entire way.
Thank you.
It was very impressive.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bonnie, was that Dylan who seconded the motion?
It is.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is Monroe Commons. You can't get enough of us. Keep coming back. You got to find a new project. Good evening.
Happy New Year.
All right, so just a reminder that to make sure you're on the microphone, both of them. And I don't know if that one's working. If not, you'll have to share the other. Or see if it's turned on. I don't think I need the one up here. I think we'll let them have that if it's a, yeah. Because I'm doing well with this, and I think Ashley, you're good, you can hear us, right?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
We can share this one
We're-
this
we're gonna-
microphone works, right?
Yeah, and we'll let you have that one as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so with that, why don't you give us a short overview, why you're here, what we're doing?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you recall, my name is Dan Richmond with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz. With me this evening is Isaac Gross on behalf of the applicant, and Mark Seamers, the project's engineering consultant. As you recall, at your December 17th, 2024 meeting, you revised your board's resolution of approval for the Monroe Commons project to adjust certain conditions as related to the timing with respect to the building permit. And pursuant to that revised resolution, we were requested to submit a revised phasing plan that shows flexibility pending the Village of Woodbury's Planning Board action on the project. So Mark has submitted a plan. I know we just received comments. Mark, if you'd like to.
Sure. So I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but my understanding of the purpose of this plan was to show that the grading on the Monroe parcel, the tree clearing and the grading on the Monroe parcel could be worked on while we were securing the approvals with the Village of Woodbury. So what we did was we held the property line with, I think, a 2-foot offset, and then graded from the property line down to our proposed grades using a one-on-one slope, which would allow for the grading and earthwork on the rest of the property. I spoke to Sean earlier this afternoon, and I came to understand that the goal was more to show that all of the earthwork on Monroe could be completed and allow the entire project to be constructed while we secured the Village of Woodbury approval, and in the event that we couldn't secure that, the project could still be constructed. So there were a lot of conversations that were had this afternoon, and working with Isaac, and Isaac's been working a very long time with our structural engineer. There is a certain type of retaining wall that they have discussed that would be constructed. It's a shotcrete retaining wall, would be constructed about a foot off the property line, and would be able to come down, and we would have enough room between the property line and the proposed curbing of the project to construct that retaining wall. I tried to come up with an average height of the retaining wall, which is difficult with such a long wall, but the maximum height would be 28 to 30 feet in certain spots. It wouldn't be that tall for a long period of time. It would then reduce down to approximately 6 feet and then come back up to about 20 before it was graded out. I didn't submit this plan. I do have a very small sketch of the plan, and basically it's just showing a retaining wall along the property line, the municipal boundary line, with the grading being cut off at that location. So I know that we're trying to finalize the revised resolution, and tonight I guess we would like to answer any questions that we can and hopefully move towards having that resolution complete with sign-off from Sean's office.
So with that, I will let Sean address the engineering comments, and then Ashley can weigh in on process.
Sure. So Mark kind of touched on most of what my comments were in the memo. Essentially, what Mark provided was a one-on-one slope, but didn't provide any phasing plan for how that one-on-one slope would be incorporated into the project to keep the project viable in the event that Woodbury does not grant the clearing and grading permit. So based on discussions I've had with Mark and with Isaac this afternoon, they're going to revise the plan to indicate where the retaining wall would be placed such that no grading would occur in Woodbury. Until such time that that's prepared, I guess my comment memo is moot because they're currently working on addressing those comments, so.
And I would just submit, Madam Chair, I mean, again, we're very anxious to move forward with the project. We've been working very hard internally, and we're going to, reach out to Sean and Ashley shortly because we think we're very close to satisfying all conditions of site plan, and obviously want to be in a position to start work, including, by March while the tree clearing is still possible. So we're asking if your board could, authorize the plan or make it, subject to Sean's sign off.
Well, so, go ahead, Ashley.
So as far as tree clearing, I don't believe, I'm just trying to pull up the resolution, so that you did approve last month, the revised. So that resolution, one of those conditions was to have this phased approval. That was tied to us to not require the village signing the plan. So I don't believe that nothing would be holding up from satisfying the conditions.
In Monroe.
Before in Monroe, yes.
Well, I'm not sure.
Let me try to fill in first on what we're talking here today, because it could get very confusing. So number one, I don't think anybody is sitting here and discussing questionable if Woodbury, they may not, but we're sitting in front of them, they're all in favor of it. Same as your board is not in favor of seeing a huge wall there. There's a lot of things that has been raised, the animals and the environment, so everybody is in favor of getting it approved. We were there, they actually asked for a resolution to be written so they could ask for a public hearing. So just the discussion here is not about putting a wall. The discussion here is about in a technical way. So it's clear that we are moving towards the direction, but it's just going to take time. That's one information that I think is important to have it on here, even though everybody knows that. The second is that I know that we have a tree removal, but if we remove tree and sitting it there, that's not the goal. The goal is to start construction, and summer construction is different than winter. Nobody's looking for winter construction. So we worked extremely hard the last few months to actually get everything for the board, for the chair to be able to sign the map. And we're very close to it, obviously by submitting to Sean to review and look over on it, including all the technical of funds and bounds, whatever is required. Obviously, the signature, I'm not sure, I don't remember, I don't think that I can't say definitely not, that the actual request that we asked last time that Woodbury would be binded to the signing. I think it was more towards the permit, and we asked for it to be approved before by the foundation permit, but I'm not sure, so I can't say definite, but I think that it was originally approved that Woodbury would be waiting for a permit, not for signing, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're here tonight actually to make the board comfortable, as well as to get you to at least give it over to the to Sean and show you that in case, which we really, let's call it doomsday, that Woodbury wouldn't approve it, which nobody's in there, and they wouldn't have the right, let's say we wouldn't even be able to challenge in court that they have to give it to us, we could show you that we could build that building both, and I'm going to spend a minute on it, temporary and permanently, without encroaching the Woodbury property. Sean had a comment about the one-to-one. I want to explain you. This comment even is going to be better. That's where this wall came up. About a few months ago, I started spending time on the closeness to the Woodbury border and see how could I use today's technology on building a wall of the foundation without digging a tremendous amount of earthwork deep 30 feet down to the ground. So we went into the city guys that have the experience, and they didn't even have it, but we found that is being done a lot in the US, which is called Shack Creek, which you mentioned earlier. I have some images here. We were actually, after 3 months of work, we succeeded to have both our SOE engineer and the structure engineer come up with a full plan for the foundation wall, or portion of the foundation wall, to be built with Shack Creek that we don't have to dig up. The way how it works is you basically go down 10 feet without digging behind the wall. You dig down 10 feet, spray concrete, I could show you pictures, and then you go down. So that eliminates a lot of earthwork in the back, eliminates a lot of, so the one-on-one that was discussed with Sean and Mark is probably going to take, not going to be actually too much, it's not going to make a big difference, because as we go away from the border of Woodbury, we could even do 3-on-1. The tight area will be done by the technique of Shot Creek, and we're not going to have any digging behind the wall. So that, I think, answers the temporary issue of construction being done without Woodbury's approval. Today we started discussing the permanence. How could Town of Monroe, Sean as protecting the town, making sure that there's no excuse later on, oh, we tried, but it didn't work out, Woodbury didn't allow us, now we're coming back to the board, Sadi, we have a foundation in place, please let us do it different, and you guys worked 7 years or what, to approve it in a different way. So I said, let's do the same technique that we just did for the foundation and use the same technique in case it happens, that we could do it there. And that's exactly, so we don't have plans today because nobody's planning to do really plans for it, but I do have plans done for the foundation, which they could both be done, duplicated right into the wall in between the Town of Monroe and the Woodbury partial. So to summarize what I explained is, number one, we're not looking for approval for a wall. Number two, Woodbury is moving in the direction of approving it. We are in a time limit of seeing ourselves signing the plan and get a foundation permit, which I think that's the request that we asked for, and that's where the planning board asked us to come back and show a phasing, which Mark has submitted, but obviously Sean had some comments on it. So that's what Dan just asked earlier. Can we get to a point where the board should feel comfortable to approve the phasing plan with the comments and requirements that Sean has, or additional points, so we could get working the next few weeks and we don't have to wait for it to come back? I know you like us to come back a lot of times, but we'll come back just to say hello, but not to get approval. So that's in short, if we could get to that point.
Have you seen the,
Just with the one-on-one grading. No retaining wall proposed, because I don't think that's been developed yet, because they didn't get, they got my comment memo today.
the idea was to allow you to move forward. The concern was, or that there's a condition that Village of Woodbury has to approve their part of it to move forward. So you wanted to begin construction,
No, it's for the ultimate building permit. That's what we got it adjusted.
or for me to sign plans, right?
No,
no,
not
no,
the
no.
signing. Only approve
How
it tonight,
fa-
that we don't have to come back to the planning board. We'll prepare with him whatever he needs to.
Now, I'm trying to figure out,
Around that condition.
Sure, so
Yes.
Bonnie, originally, the Woodbury approval was required for the issuance of a building permit. And they requested that be changed to before a building permit other than a permit for the construction of foundation, structural steel, gazebo, et cetera. So, as a condition, in order to, for the board to move that timeline, required the phasing plan to show that in the event, it's not likely that we're, it's not asked to, review it and ultimately approve it, it won't happen. So in the event that it did happen, to make sure that the project is still being built out without, change from design or approval.
right,
So then the condition was that the board has to approve that phasing plan before it's signed.
Well, I'm not clear. So Ashley's saying that we have to have the phasing plan approved before the site plan is signed.
before I sign the site plan, I believe you said.
Yes.
And
So
we're
I
hoping
guess what we showed with our phase grading plan is that the foundation can be constructed and the site can be graded to the municipal boundary without touching Woodbury. And in the event that we don't actually get, so then tonight's discussion surrounded around, in the event that we don't actually get the site plan approval from Woodbury, we would have to construct this retaining wall. But the plan that we submitted to you originally, December 20th, somewhere around there, was to show that the foundation can be constructed and the site can be graded without touching Woodbury.
It's not just that the foundation can be installed, it's that all the improvements as proposed can be installed in the event that Woodbury does not permit the grading.
Correct.
Hmm.
So that's.
Right, but
But
that
there's no plan that shows that you can install that retaining wall.
wait, I didn't understand that
Right.
that was the
Mhm.
goal originally. The goal originally, in my mind, was to show that the foundation could be installed and the site can be graded without touching Woodbury. Now, tonight, we're saying with this technology and this wall that Isaac developed with our structural engineer, these site improvements as approved can be constructed with the construction of that wall, but we obviously would need to come back to the planning board for approval of that wall.
No, so without, yeah, in case we use that wall, we would have to come back to the approval. But we could get approval tonight.
But
If-
you have to you have to provide a plan that shows that it
Right.
can be constructed.
And
I
so
can't
what we
approve
understand
it
is your
without
I
plan.
always have to submit to you to review it, but the board could approve the application and approve the plan if we meet that plan and we give it to you.
That's what again, I was suggesting if the board can make the plan subject to Sean's approval, because we understand your board doesn't have any other meetings this month, and we are anxious to move forward with site plan signing.
First of all, we do
I know
have
that
it.
last meeting, we did speak about this, whether originally, whether the phasing plan could just be something subject to Sean's approval, and the board certainly wanted to see that and to approve it, so.
So let me understand. I mean, first of all, we have submitted 6 years ago a plan with a wall, which is part of the thing. We have shown tonight a plan that we have tonight. We haven't submitted it on time because obviously there was a misunderstanding. It's not something that is that needs a lot of reviewing to see the wall. It's maybe the technique of the wall that you want to make sure. So that's why I'm a little confused. Why can't we have the board tonight approving it based, it's a long wall, it's basically a line. I mean, all it is, it's just a wall.
But if this is a wall, aren't you still
No, there wouldn't be.
That's the grading that's shown in Woodbury is what's been approved,
It's light, that's in light.
and then the darker one that's shown solely in Monroe is the proposed temporary grading
has this grade, but that's what would,
in concept by the town of Monroe.
It hasn't been
That's
approved by
their
that's
Woodbury.
been,
It's not been approved by Woodbury.
right, it's been evaluated from the
From
seeker.
seeker's
and-
perspective,
And
right,
so
right.
the plan relies on this grading to be able to.
Yes.
No, with the wall, it's not
Well,
required.
right, now you're showing us something, although we don't have the full details of it, that this needs to be removed because the whole theory is that there is an alternative that you could construct without losing parking, without changing your layout, some kind of system for us to allow you to move forward because you would not rely on Woodbury. Because you want to move forward, and us signing the plan requires that you have Woodbury's approval.
No, your plan doesn't have the sign approval, only the foundation permit.
Right.
We came
For the
back.
foundation.
No, the building
So
permit.
that's
It's the
different,
building
building
permit, not the
permit.
foundation
So
permit.
let me be clear, I mean, where we came back to ask you, since this site is into the hill, and it's very hard to do any site work and ignore the building, because the build, which is, that's what we worked 7 years on, making a plan that it's built in, we asked for it to change or clarify words in there that we believed in the beginning that we could get the foundation permit before that to work with the site work. We came to the board last month, we came a few months ago, and then you asked us to come back with more clarification on what items we need to get the foundation permit before, because it's going to take longer time. One of the items were that we got approval, by the final approval, to have a foundation permit. We could get signature of the map before we get Woodbury, but we wouldn't be able to get a building permit So we asked, can you please give us to allow the foundation permits given before we have signature of Woodbury, because we don't know how long it's going to take. So what we're discussing tonight is before the foundation permit. What Ashley was saying is that in order for you to grant us the permission of doing the foundation permit before the permit, you would have to approve this plan, this phasing plan, before signing. So we could really go back and say, which doesn't make sense, but we should just leave it as it was originally in the approved plan, and we could get signature without any of those. We don't have to be tonight here. So all we're asking is, there is a application, there was a misunderstanding, how it should be prepared. We were talking about temporary. I guess Sean clarified now that it's got to be for permanent, and we have the solution for it, which is a wall. It's just a question, what type of wall? And what I'm showing you is there is a wall that we're actually doing here, and I'm sure that you want your consultants to make sure that the wall is a wall that could be built, and they're going to have to review it. So we're asking the board just to accept our plan that we gave in tonight on showing a wall and saying this will be in case of we're not getting Woodbury's approval, so we can't get the foundation permit before Woodbury.
Well, if I understand, you have a sketch plan. I want to understand the extension wall. If I understand correctly, it doesn't require any behind the wall.
Correct.
No tiebacks with it?
There is tiebacks, but that gets drilled through the bottom. That's not something you
Into
need in
Woodbury?
front.
Or
Yeah, I mean, same thing as you do gas, they call cracking on the ground, so nobody has restriction of not drilling. You have the gas fracture, and what's happening with that? That was
Yeah.
all over to Supreme Court. So you can go to Australia and have what's their allowance. I mean, again, we're not planning to do it, but would it have potentially tiebacks? It probably have to be drilling back tiebacks.
I understand we wouldn't need something from,
From you.
well, yes, but from the adjacent landowner
So, yes.
allowing you to do that.
We have that. It's
We
the
have
same
that.
owner, so that would.
Right, I mean, I understand that, but
Yeah.
that's a formality that we'd
Yeah.
want to have as well, right, from a legal standpoint.
Whole issue, is because for whatever reason. So, the issue is that Woodbury hasn't granted its approvals. And as I said, that's not really on us. We would like you to advance this, but I feel like we're going down this slippery slope because we're saying, okay, we're going to provide something theoretical, but if for whatever reason Woodbury doesn't approve it, it wouldn't be theoretical. And now we have a wall that I don't think we ever examined as part of seeker. And not that it's a big deal, but it wasn't envisioned. We went actually we went to the root of having the grading happening in Woodbury so that you wouldn't have the walls. So,
But you approved the plan. I'm not going to
Yeah,
take the wrong position, but we approved the plan that it could be signed without any approval of Woodbury. We cannot get a building permit.
Can't get yeah, I mean, we
We cannot get a building permit. So all we're asking you is give us that we want to have the foundation permit before we get the building permit. We all know that the building cannot be built, get a building permit without Woodbury, or we have to come back to the boards. It was all along that we're pending in Woodbury.
right, I mean, this is,
We knew it from the
Woodbury
first
is part
beginning
and
that there's a
parcel of
small
this
minor.
project.
Yeah, there's a small minor chance that Woodbury, is it really reality? I don't think they have the legal right to say
So-
no, whatever, but it's
So
not.
let me ask you this, what's the timeline right now for Woodbury?
For Woodbury?
Yes,
They told us we were supposed to get this month. I think they pushed us to next month. And they're going to schedule a public hearing according to what we know. Yes, Mark, you could take over. You were there.
Yeah, so we attended the Village of Woodbury Planning Board meeting in December, and we received comments from them. They authorized their board they authorized their consultants to begin preparing a finding statement, their own finding statement. And we asked them to schedule a public hearing, but they felt there were some questions that they needed answers to before they would schedule it. So we need to answer some of the comments that we received.
Maybe
Not
next
yet.
month.
No, they are scheduled, but a resolution before.
We're not scheduled.
No,
They
but they
authorized
something.
authorized the preparation of a finding
The
statement.
findings, right, but you're not for a public hearing. So in their,
We are submitting for that meeting
so possibly in January, they may schedule you
for February.
for February. And then February, depending on what happens, they could in theory act that same evening if they close the public hearing, but we don't know what's gonna happen.
Correct.
So the earliest you're talking about is somewhere in the February, March, April timeline
I wish.
to be able.
So what I believe we have is two issues. The first issue is being able to build the foundation and grade the Monroe site, which is what was discussed at the previous planning board meeting. I believe the phasing plan, the phased grading plan that we gave shows that those two objectives can be achieved without touching Woodbury. Now, the second issue that we have is
Just
installing.
that issue though, your phasing plan doesn't show how a wall is constructed.
So the second issue is being able to construct all of the permanent improvements shown on the site plan as approved. And that is where we would require the wall, right? So the second issue is, and all along during SECR, we said if we don't get the approval from Woodbury, we would need to return to this board for a revised approval. So I think that is where we would have to come back and then analyze the proposed retaining wall and the changes that would do to the analysis during SECR, right, and the approval. So I think the one-on-one phase grading plan achieves what the resolution that was reviewed at the last meeting requested. And if we don't get Village of Woodbury approval, then we'll have to come back to the board to discuss a retaining wall option.
Sorry, but I disagree with that. It satisfies a condition because I don't see a plan where this grading plan can then, you can construct a retaining wall utilizing this grading plan.
Well, the existing grade would still be at the property line, right? This is just a one-on-one slope, so you're doing the earthwork. They're excavating, they're getting close to grade, and then when they get to the village property line, they just grade it up to existing grade at the municipal line.
But at this point, I haven't seen a plan where you can install a retaining wall with 2 feet of existing
Well,
grade
then
at
we
the.
would have to come back to the planning board to show that we can install the permanent
Well, that's why I
improvements.
think you need the plan now to show that you can install it.
You guys want to really review a wall there?
I'm sorry?
If you guys really want to see a wall there?
Well,
No.
I think it's forward with without Woodbury.
Be able to move forward with construction without Woodbury's approval.
Without Woodbury, right.
But we don't need a wall for that.
So,
We don't need a wall. That's what Mark is saying. We could.
I think
deal with it
I think
so let's say
that possibility always existed.
So Woodbury, let's say Woodbury does not approve it,
Right.
okay? Based on your current plans, would they have to change that? Okay, so what do you have to,
We would have to install a retaining wall at the.
Show that it's
municipal-
feasible, install a retaining wall.
That's why we wouldn't get a permit, and we'd have to be board back in front of the board. So
I'm not asking for a full design of a wall. I just want to show that a retaining wall could be built with this grading plan.
so fine. So we will submit that. But the planning board, in order for, I mean, again, I'm repeating what we had tonight, because it looks like we're debating really the wall. We're looking for, we're not getting a building permit before Woodbury is approving us. What we're asking is give us a foundation permit so we could install just the block and get from Woodbury a few months later the approval.
I guess I don't really see.
There's a huge,
Because the foundation is acting as retaining walls throughout the site.
that's
So
why
it's supporting the soil on the second and third floor parking areas. Correct.
I remember correctly from the meeting where we went over the resolution and this point in particular, part of the conversation was that with this phase plan, that the applicant was taking on a risk that Woodbury might not approve, and that there'd be the expense not only of doing this phased plan so that they could get the foundation permit and do the tree clearing, but yes, that at that point, if Woodbury doesn't approve, and we have to come back to do a look at a retaining wall, that it means coming back and basically everything stops at that point until we can approve, if we approve, a retaining wall. So again, it's an at-risk on the applicant and the builder's behalf, but I thought that was sort of part of how we landed on this as a solution was means to an end.
Yeah, I think there's what Mark said earlier, the concept of last month's meeting was, and it's where we get all the whole time back and forth, is who said you could actually do the construction at the time as you're waiting for Woodbury? Forget about if we'd never get from Woodbury. That was all discussed all along. We know that the wall has to be then constructed, and it's going to go in a lot of work, hopefully never, in order to make that presentable, in order to make it real, in order to get it in reality of technician. What we had last month is who said you could go ahead and do the construction of a foundation permit because you don't have enough grading that you could really reality do it without touching. And that was the plan that Max submitted. What we're discussing tonight with you, Sean, is what happens if Woodbury never gives it to you? Yes, of course, that's going to need intensive work together. So because the question came up, I came to answer, listen, there is ways to do it, just see. And that's why Mark prepared quickly in the afternoon, just to show you, we could do a wall here, that's in worst scenario. But we're not debating, not last month and not this month, the permanent problem if Woodbury never gives it to us, because that was discussed, and that's what you mentioned, that's on our risk, what are you going to do with a site that's all open, all pipes, all trees cut, and we can't get the approval from Woodbury. It's going to be painful.
That's right, but your grading plan has to be able to accept if you have the retaining wall there.
But we're not going to have to do the
I
parking.
think there's two things here, right? So if you ultimately don't get approval from Woodbury, need a retaining wall, need to come back to this board for an amended site plan approval for a retaining wall. But in order for this board to allow you to move forward and start construction, they need to see a grading plan that won't preclude that possibility. So the condition requires this phased plan to show the grading will be in such a manner that either option could be accommodated. So the actual language from the condition was that temporary grading along the village boundary that allows future grading within the village as currently proposed and does not preclude the construction of retaining walls along the property's boundary to allow the applicant to proceed in the event you don't obtain approval from Woodbury. So it's not saying that you need to, that this is approving the wall, or this needs to show that the wall can be accommodated. And I guess there might have been another plan submitted earlier today that Sean hasn't had a chance to review, but I don't know whether that would satisfy it or not. But that's, that was always the intent of the condition, and that's what the board's requiring.
Right, because what we have in front of us, for instance, shows temporary grading to be utilized until an approval is secured from the Village of Woodbury for clearing and grading. But we don't see a plan that, and what this is showing to be able to accommodate that grading, at least it seems to me it's going into parking areas, for example. So you're saying that if, in fact, Woodbury doesn't approve the grading, that wouldn't be the case. You would be showing a wall. You'd be showing something there so that you're not losing your parking, you're not affecting your stormwater.
That's correct.
Et cetera.
And the one-on-one grading doesn't stop the wall from being constructed because the wall would require more excavation into the wall face. It's not like we would then have to go back and fill, so it doesn't stop the wall from being constructed.
And we're not
So-
planning to do any parking at this point.
But so what I see is, parking, curbing, stormwater, a couple, 2, 3 feet off of the Woodbury Village boundary.
Room
Is
for a
there
wall.
room to put a wall? How would you put a wall in without touching Woodbury? That's what we don't see.
Again, but we're not planning to do, the building permit has nothing with the parking. That's why a building permit is withhold, so we cannot occupy the building, we can't build it to final, so you have an issue with parking. The whole discussion is only a construction discussion, and that's where I think we got diverted tonight. It's more about the question today on the table sits, permanently if you get denied by Woodbury, what would you do? Well, tonight's meeting was mostly is how can you, we're asking for you, let us do the foundation because it's part of the site plan which you anyway signed off to allow us, which we could pull back this application and just say, we're just going to ask for the signature and wait for Woodbury's approval to do foundation. We could still do the parking, we could still do all the stuff based on that. We're just asking as an applicant that we want to continue this construction without being gunned by Woodbury that they are dragging their time for whatever reason it is. We continue going, and this is only a construction plan that we submitted. The question about Sean about the wall is a permanent solution, which we could have discussed it in the past. We're here to discuss it tonight. I'm here to make the board as much comfortable as feel. I'm here if Sean wants to have any papers that should be submitted to him in order to make sure that he could say, yes, you could give him a foundation permit. Don't give us a foundation permit till Sean approves this. But that's not why we have to come back to a planning board again and discuss the temporary, because we haven't gotten Haverstraw, Woodbury at this point, we're getting it in 3 months from now. That's the whole discussion.
All right, so if we're saying then the foundation permit isn't issued, what are you going to do?
We're just going to go ahead and ask you for a signature for the map, because we have everything, and we're going to start building. And hopefully we get Woodbury before we do foundation, and if not, we'll just have to wait, and it's going to be dragging. There's work to do. Obviously, it takes longer.
But can we do that, Ashley?
What
I
was
don't
the
think it's
question?
going to be a benefit to anybody, but
So at this point in time, I guess I'm not understanding. You want to move forward. What did we say we could, what in the resolution, what does it say we can move forward with? Without having Woodbury's approval? What are they allowed to do?
Move forward with the tree clearing, I believe.
Okay,
And they need Woodbury's approval before a building permit. Well, if they're asking to go back to how it was before, they wouldn't be able to move forward with anything. They wouldn't be able to get any permit without Woodbury's approval.
or we get signature.
so
So
could
if
get-
we're
can I,
trying to not have to do the phasing plan and just wait until Woodbury gives approval, then the only thing they'd be able to do would be the tree removal.
they're asking for me to sign the plan now.
Well,
So that's what I'm saying.
There's still other conditions of
Phasing plan.
signing the plan that I haven't seen that have
We don't
been
need that.
satisfied.
We don't,
Phasing-
we don't need we don't need a phasing plan, because if for just signature, we need it for foundation permit.
No, the
Where does it say?
phasing
I mean,
plans
it's,
required prior to the
specific
signing of
condition
the
five.
plans. That was in response to your request to allow
So
a foundation permit before Woodbury's approval. So if you're now, this is news to me if you're now trying to change that, but in response to your request to allow, the foundation permit before
Yeah, but that was
Woodbury's
based on
approval,
this adjusting of these
the
conditions.
board required the phasing plan before signing of the plans. The plans
is
need to
what
be
it did
signed
last
before you
month.
could get any type of building permit, foundation permit, et cetera. you broke out then the types of permits
This wasn't
to
in it
building permit and building permit other than a
This was
foundation
adjusted
permit.
based on.
So
Yeah, but the original.
I guess I'm
wasn't.
confused about what the request is at this
It was added.
first.
And I think we are too.
So here's how I see it. If I understand, what we're really talking about is, if this phasing plan shows that it would work to start the foundational work, but there's the issue that you bring up, Sean, of, okay, Woodbury never comes through with an approval, and we have to now do a retaining wall. So you need to see that it's feasible. We don't need to see the final design of the wall. We don't need to approve the final design of the wall. Technically, we never even have to approve the wall if it comes back to us and we're never satisfied. So,
Just showing that it's technically feasible.
that it's technically feasible.
Right.
Well, if the applicant brings back something on a retaining wall, for me to look at if it's technically feasible, I'm going to look at Sean and say, Sean, I need you to tell me whether it's technically feasible or not. I'm not going to know that. So if I understand the applicant is saying, if we all feel that way, then we can make it contingent on, once Sean has reviewed this feasibility plan for a wall and show that it is actually buildable, what you're proposing, Isaac, and you're comfortable with that, then we've said, yes, okay, we acknowledge that our engineer is the one that's qualified to make that part of the decision, and if he makes that part of the decision, then we can move forward at this point.
I'm not comfortable with that because we have nothing in front of us at this point. I appreciate, but we don't see something that shows that it's feasible. And so then I start to look at this and say, all right, what if it's not? And now it's affecting parking areas. Why am I going to approve the same site plan and the same building if you're losing things?
Well, but the parking areas aren't there. They aren't there during the earthwork.
I'm just
The
saying
goal of this
overall.
is to be able to clear and grade while we secure Woodbury. And during that time, the parking
Why are you
areas
going
and
to
the
clear
drainage
and
is not
grade
there.
to a level that you're going to have to change the entire site plan if you don't get the clear?
Because
Well, then we have to come back.
But we have a wall.
With a site that's disturbed.
Have to come back for an amendment site plan, but this board doesn't want to allow you to start doing all grading that's then not going to accommodate your whatever amended site plan's gonna have to be. So I don't know if maybe Sean and Mark can talk offline, after the meeting and kind of explain what exactly the board's looking for.
If I may ask the
so-
question, by the
so-
approved project, the original approved application, before we came back last month, I thought, and I think that was the language in there, that we could get the signature before we get Woodbury approval. Is because we came back last month to ask for foundation permit, so-called we got punished that we have to now wait? I mean, this is not something that was approved. The planning board approved the application without being concerned about the final Woodbury, knowing that we have a plan. So it's just last month.
Because at last month's meeting, it was that you wouldn't be able to start any construction without the Woodbury clearing
Well,
and
we could do
grading.
site plan signature without it. Before last month's meeting, we were able to do site plan signature without Woodbury's approval.
Have you met all the other conditions for
Yes,
site
and
plan?
you're still able to do site plan signature without Woodbury's approval, but now you need approval of the grading plan or this phased plan in order to get site plan.
But
signature.
that's now, but we had before last month, we were able to get that. It's just last month. So basically, we came to ask for the foundation permit and we got thrown back.
Always needed.
Correct, but not Woodbury's approval before we get site plan signature.
No, you needed Woodbury's approval before.
Correct. So now we're being pushed that we can't even get signature before Woodbury.
That's not true.
You're asking for a foundation permit.
I understand,
Yeah,
but in
because
fact,
you
if we don't have
requested
the
this
phasing
change
plan,
to
we
speed
cannot
up
get
the
signature
timeline of when you
because
could
we
get a
didn't get
foundation permit
the phasing plan.
to push Woodbury's approval to a later time. In order to do that, this phased plan that was is something that's required in order to allow you to do that, had to be approved before site plan signature.
Why is it, you guys are confident that it works?
No, it's just timing. I mean, we're getting next month. Yeah, if we could do it next month and then a day after that to get the signature, we're planning in the next day or two to submit to you full plan. We got the bound. We have everything lined up. So it's really something that is timing. If next month could be and then a day after we get the signature, we could agree tonight.
Why don't
Or
you,
there's other conditions of plan signing that I would suggest that you then start showing us you've complied with, because everything's not gonna be able to be reviewed in a day.
We have given some and we're ready to submit it probably tomorrow.
all right, so this is what I suggest. So you all submit whatever it is you have to document that you've met conditions of whatever's required for sign planning. In the meantime, Mark and Sean work together to come up with a plan that demonstrates addresses the not having time, risk that they possibly will. I don't think that's the reality, but you're wanting to advance this, so we need something to be able to prove. When Ashley and when Sean are satisfied that they can come back to us and they feel that this is something that's workable, we can poll the board and we can see if we could do a special meeting. Because at this point, it was unfortunate, the town board, one of our meetings got scheduled the same evening as a town board meeting. So if things are in order, we can see if we could schedule something. We can accommodate in that way. 'Cause I don't think we're dealing with things,
Fifth Wednesday
this
and a
evening.
fifth Wednesday and a fifth Thursday this month.
There you go. So we've got a fifth week, and if we can expedite this, and again, I think you need to speak to Ashley, Dan, and I think Mark will work with Sean, so we can put whatever the paperwork is together and show whatever's necessary to then, if we need to approve something, we will, or maybe we don't have to meet, and then it's just a matter of, well, I think we do have to meet to make sure everybody's satisfied that whatever needs to be shown is shown, so I can then sign. So let's just move forward, but I think we have to do some of this offline. I don't think it's gonna get resolved today, but we will work with you to get it resolved.
Very good.
Especially if you have it, if you're progressing it and you're moving it,
Good. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
okay? Thank,
See, I
Thanks.
told you, you like to
Happy
see
New Year.
us.
You're gonna have to come back.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Have a good night. It's funny to see boots with the suit. Yeah.
It feels that way. I think we need to turn the heat back on. All right, thank you. Is someone here for 290 Mountain View Drive? Okay, Mike.
What happened to Yiddy? He didn't want to come? Use that mic.
Thank you. That's why we're
Really?
All right, thank you. I'm gonna set you up, but in the meantime, I'm going to.
Yeah, so Joel couldn't make it tonight, so he asked me to cover for the meeting for him. I'm the project engineer for the application anyways, so here I am. Yeah, I was gonna say, I had my jacket on back there.
Well, the door keeps
Ellen was the
blowing
only
open
one
too.
that decided to say, hey, something's up. All right, I'm gonna excuse myself for a moment, but please start.
Like if you'll go ahead and give
Yep,
us a
sure,
project
I'll give you a general overview. So as you'll see on the existing conditions plan on, I think, sheet 2, it shows an existing or at least a two-story single-family dwelling that's currently under construction. We had gotten a building permit through the building inspector's office to commence construction when it was a single lot. The applicant then decided to entertain a two-lot subdivision. So here we are now appearing before the planning board for the two-lot subdivision. So the building shown towards the top of the page is the one that's under construction. The one that's shaded to the lower portion of the page is the one that we're proposing as part of the two-lot subdivision. It'll be a proposed two-family dwelling again on the building on the lower side of the page, and it's an existing, well, under construction, single-family dwelling at the top of the page. We're in the SR10 zone. Both lots are zoning compliant. I looked at Sean's comment letter quickly. He's correct that we would need a special use permit as part of the two-family proposal, I believe. So we'll update the application and/or fees to include that. I mean, that pretty much summarizes the project. It's pretty simple in nature. Again, we have a driveway that's shown for the single-family dwelling, another one for the two-family. The two-family obviously has a few parking spots associated with it because there'll be multiple families in there. So site will be served by municipal sewer. We did get a sewer permit for the one that's under construction now. We'll go through the same process for the two-family dwelling as well.
I have a question before we get to our consultants. So if I'm following this correctly, even before the two-family overlay was enacted, this property would have been compliant to do a subdivision and do a single-family house on that?
Correct.
Okay, so it's really the difference now is that there's the opportunity to do a two-family house on this subdivided lot rather than just do a one-family.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Sean, can we get your comments, please?
Sure. So I had a number of comments. I'll try to stick to the high-level ones. As Mike noted, and I just relayed to Noreen that only the subdivision fees were paid and application was made out. So site plan and special use permit apply because of the two-family dwelling, so that'll have to be updated. The EA, or the Environmental Resource Mapper from DEC, notes potential floodplain and/or wetlands to the rear of the property. So those will have to be deducted from the net lot area, assuming they are on the property. And they should be noted on the plan. I had comments on the EAF to be updated. I assume the wells are going to be supplied, or excuse me, the dwellings are going to be supplied potable water by wells.
Can we zoom in actually on the existing, or the one that's under construction right now? I can't remember, the one that's under construction, the one at the top of the page. I think, yeah, I'm trying to refresh my memory, quite frankly.
Didn't see a water line or a well.
Yeah, I'll have to check on that and get back to you.
I'm sure if water is going to be supplied by the Village of Curious, Joel actually is probably going to want some type of outside user agreement
Sure.
or something for that.
Sure.
Applicant connect to sewer, which is the properties located within Orange County Sewer District Number 1, so they have the ability to tie in, and that will have to be approved by the county. And then, so if I understand correctly, there's going to be proposed retaining walls surrounding the dwellings, as well as there's an existing retaining wall in the rear of the property?
Yeah, let's go to, so where exactly are we looking?
Halfway down the property, there's a line that stretches across further down. That one, yep. I understand that to be a retaining wall, but I didn't see the grading plan that showed top and bottom
Yeah,
of the wall.
I'm going to have to double check that. So there's a little overlap from the original site plan that we submitted for site plan, for building permit for the one that's under construction versus what's on this plan. So I might need to do some plan cleanup to make sure that what is there is being constructed and/or designed.
My opinion, I think all of those improvements should be shown as proposed rather than existing, especially if they're under construction currently.
Yeah, we can show the original site plan.
Disturbance-wise, it is under an acre of disturbance, as noted on the site plan. But I think erosion and sediment control measures should be.
Yes, as we develop the plans, we'll provide that.
The landscaping plan was provided, that was sent over to Karen for comment. I didn't see any new comments from her yet. You will have architectural review authority, so on the two-family. So architectural elevations and renderings will have to be provided. You have to label each of the proposed finishes. Site lighting proposed.
I'll check on that. I think it's mostly just residential sconces and things of that nature, but I'll check on the
Yeah,
site.
so if you could just label those on the elevations, the light fixtures. And then I believe it requires referral to county planning, Ashley, but I'll defer to you on whether or not it falls under one of the exemptions, and then we should discuss secret with Ashley as well.
Ashley, you have comments?
Yes. So, starting with unlisted action, I know Sean's comments had mentioned some changes to the EAF. I had a couple of additional. Question 2 should identify the other outside agency approvals that are required. I think somewhere on the plans it indicated the town board approval of sidewalks were going to be required in the right of way, and also the county approval for the sewer connection, and then if there's a public water connection to the village of Kirstal, just so that we know who the involved agencies are and can circulate a notice of intent. And then also, question 9 on the EAF, it said that the action does not meet or exceed state energy code requirements, so I
didn't
wasn't
hear
sure
that.
that was correct.
Energy code
Stating that it
Oh.
doesn't
not going to
meet
meet.
the energy.
It said it would not. Okay. We'll change that. I did not prepare the AF.
Hear her now.
Requirements. Familiar with those by? I did see, I think one of the details was for a driveway on Orange County Highway. It seemed like a county road detail as opposed to a town road detail. I don't know if that was just a typo or if that detail needs to be updated.
Yeah, there's others that need to be revised as well that I noticed.
And then there are some improvements in the side yard. So we had dealt with this with another application. We'd want Ben to review those to see whether those are encroachments for required stairways that are allowed to project into a yard, not more than 4 feet, or if a variance would be needed for any of those.
Oh, that might.
Under the
I didn't get a
special
good
use
portion of
permit criteria, if you could also label the width of the driveway in the front yard at its widest point, just to confirm that it does not exceed 24 feet.
Ashley, could I ask that you might be able to email these to me tomorrow too, some of your comments, because I missed probably quite a few of them. I couldn't hear you before.
What was the one right before the one you just mentioned, Ashley?
Error.
Improvements in the side yard, I heard.
So improvements, there were certain, I think, maybe stair or entryways in the side yard, it looked like.
Right, and
Code permits up to 4
up
feet.
to 4 feet, right, that's what I heard.
And so to check that with Ben.
Yes.
Okay. Mike just asked if we could get an email of all the comments because he may have missed some.
Sure, I could shoot Mike an email.
Thank you.
Did you have additional comments?
I think that was it. I do believe it would be exempt from referral to the county as a subdivision involving less than 5 lots. I had reached out to the county, I think back with the 127 Seven Springs application that involved a subdivision with 2 families, and they did say that even though it was 2 families, would fall under the
exemption.
the exemption.
So it won't require referral?
Correct.
Okay.
It will require the public hearing notice when it's set to go to the Village of Kirstall and Town of Palm Tree.
Is that the NN?
Yes.
239 NN, okay. Mountain View's a town road?
Yes.
Sash?
That was it. The board, if you wanted to classify the action as unlisted under seeker and declare your intent to be lead agency, I could circulate a notice of intent once we receive the revised EAF.
Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved?
May I have a second?
Second.
And that's a motion to allow Ashley to begin drafting the notice of intent, so we can.
So a motion to classify as unlisted action and to declare your intent to be lead agency.
Yes.
Subject to the AF revision.
Subject to any EAF revisions.
Dylan Penn,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
So is that about what we can do this evening?
That's fine. Yeah, I'd appreciate
Yeah.
that. Circulating the notice of intent for lead agency is great. We'll address Sean's comments. And when I get all of Ashley's comments on an email, I'll take a look at those and address those as well.
Okay.
And then we'll make a resubmittal to the board.
Any board members didn't have? Okay, we're good.
Super. Thanks for your time tonight, everybody. Happy
Thank
New Year,
you.
too.
Next on the agenda is Target Tesla charging station. Good evening. And just identify yourself for the record when you're ready, and speak into the microphone,
Will do.
or we'll get yelled at.
This one.
This one.
I don't know which one. Mike was using the other one. Yeah, I don't know.
This one?
I don't think so.
sorry.
Try the other.
Screwed you up.
Here?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Franz Gertis.
We're shuffling them on the applicants.
I'm a design manager for Tesla. I'm here presenting the site at the Bailey Farm Road Target. We're putting in electric vehicle charging stations there. I'm seeking site plan amendment approval, and here to answer any questions.
Sorry, could I get your name again? I missed it.
Franz, F-R-A-N-Z, last name Gertis, G-E-R-D-E-S.
So, Sean, did you have comments?
I did. So essentially, what's going to happen is there's going to be infrastructure installed for 4 Tesla superchargers. They're restriping a portion of the parking lot closest to the entrance off of Bailey Farm, near where, if some of you may recall, the trailers were installed to take up some of those parking spots. So I pulled out that old application. It doesn't look like the spots that are being restriped are where those were approved, but they're very nearby. All in all, there will be a net loss of 3 spaces. So if you recall, with the previous application for the trailers, the board had, I think, rightfully decided that there was more than sufficient parking within the Target parking lot. Langen had provided a calculation of what they thought that whole complex needed with regards to number of parking spaces. I have that memo. I think there's about 119 parking spaces. Sorry, I'm going from memory. I didn't write it down. But essentially, what my recommendation would be is to whether or not the board still feels there's adequate parking there. The board can reduce the parking by up to 25% in the business park overlay, and so you would be exercising that right to then reduce those excess spaces of about 119 down to about 116.
So
Essentially,
it's a
that's
loss
the.
of 2?
I'm sorry.
Loss of 2?
3.
3, okay.
That's the gist of the whole
18 was-
project. I had a few rather minor technical comments on the plans, but.
Ashley, do you have any comments?
or I think just a few here. So as far as secret goes, it would be a type 2 action. Referral to the county is required under GML. It didn't fall within any of the exemptions. A public hearing is discretionary. A few comments, the entity disclosure form, the section B needs to be filled out. You do need a tree plan in accordance with Article XX of the code, and that needs to show where the trees and landscaping being removed will be replanted, or if everything's going to be replanted in the same place as existing. That's something I think Sean might have mentioned on his comments as well, but it wasn't quite clear to me.
Could I possibly get those comments, like an email or something?
Yes. Ashley, you can email those comments, right?
Or I'll email them to Noreen and then
Yeah.
I'll get them
you
over.
pass them along.
Okay.
Just one more thought on the land. The plans do say that the landscaping is going to be replaced in kind. I didn't know if you guys were satisfied with what landscaping's there currently to be replaced, or if you wanted to get some input from Karen as to changes, proposed changes to the landscaping.
Is this in the area that's that aisle, the main aisle coming in? No? Which aisle is it?
So, you know where the shipping, when you first
Where the
pull
shipping
into
containers are?
into the upper plaza?
Yep, yep.
And the
Turn
road
it.
comes in and directly, then there's a row of trees, and those
It's that row of
spaces.
trees on the
is-
right side, the
right,
stalls
just-
directly adjacent.
on
Okay.
the parking spaces that are basically facing the inner road.
Looking into
the
the
entry road,
target.
yeah.
Okay. Because
And I guess maybe a comment I was thinking as well, it was kind of hard to tell from the plans where this is in relation to the building. I don't know if there could be some kind of aerial showing that, or.
On the cover sheet, we have an aerial. Yeah, I guess we could label the target on there if you'd like.
Right. It's that part of the parking lot.
Yeah.
It's almost like an alcove over there.
Yeah, you have to come in and go around.
So in terms of the, yes, I'd like Karen to take a look at it. I thought that for instance, the LE has, I want to say cherry trees or something. For some reason, I think that they're decorative, and I could be totally wrong. But I thought they were all the same, but I don't know what they're,
They almost look like red maples, but
yeah, so it would be good for her to take a look at it, because she might suggest the appropriate species, given the location. I don't know how much soil is there and what the width is going to be available for root growth, so I tend to like Karen taking a look at these things.
Well, and I don't know what might thrive in and around what Tesla is proposing doing in that strip of land, but particularly because there's going to be equipment there, I'd like to see, if possible, that it become more of a screening cover there than a decorative cover.
We proposed some screening as well, I believe, yeah. That's not currently there.
We also have the expansion for Target coming in. Yeah, they'll be on next month. They're at a conference today.
So you're representing Tesla?
Mhm.
As
We're
opposed-
working with
You're
with
working with
Target.
Target, but you're representing Tesla.
Correct.
Board member?
I do. It's really with this incoming other application relating to Target that I think we have to take these two into consideration somewhat holistically, in that not only is there going to be a reduction in parking, open parking for customers between a loss with the Tesla spots, and those will really be dedicated for cars that need to be electrically recharged.
No, they're not dedicated for charging.
Oh, so anyone
Anyone can
could
park there.
conceivably park there. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
So it's just the 3 laws.
But Target's also looking to expand their pickup spots, which are dedicated for just pickup orders. it's not so much the loss of spaces, which, as Sean noted, we've looked at in the past. There's plenty of parking, but the quality of parking that concerns me. What I like about the Tesla application is it's located in the part of the parking lot where people don't generally park.
Purposely. Yeah.
Sure.
Laser pointer.
That one dead. That's the dead one.
Okay. Can you see this, Franz, as well? All right. So this is our entry road. Where Tesla is proposing to put in is, looks like from the little bump out here down through the spaces. It'll be ultimately 16 spaces, which are about as far from the Target entrance as you can. Nicely located where the equipment isn't as visible, especially if they have some screening covered. But this is where currently these spaces and some of these spaces are dedicated to pickup. And they're proposing to expand closer to the building, which I'm not so sure is necessarily the best place for that in the first place. Maybe not for Target's purposes, but for walking customer purposes. Let's see, where am I? Okay, as you park here, this is handicapped, all in here, dedicated handicap spaces, and you lose spaces here because there's nice pathways from the handicap spaces into the building. It's really well set up.
That's where I'm talking about.
Right, it's really well set up there, but this whole front portion of the parking is essentially dedicated not to most of the customers who are going to be accessing the store. And my feeling is if they have to push the handicap, it may reconfigure some of this stuff as well. Like I said, I like where Tesla's proposing. I am going to suggest when we get to the next application that this may be the better location for the spots for the pickup, which are also in, as Dylan noted, not the most convenient spot in the parking lot, and it would free up more spots closer to the entry for people who are going in and out with their merchandise, and would allow Target to just come back and forth from here and here. So I know that's something we're going to have to consider, but because we're reducing parking spaces here, or we're changing parking spaces here, we're changing parking spaces there, I just think we need to stay cognizant of that with both applications.
So,
And I think it's also relevant because you're also going to lose spots from that application as well, so.
yeah, I'm thinking they probably picked that place up for the pickups and the drop-offs because don't the people come out to bring it to the car? So they may be putting it there. If you put it in the far, what is that? It's kind of upside down.
Right.
West end. They're walking through parking aisles and other things, whereas let's say you move it actually farther to the left in those kind of dead spaces.
Where the cars are sparsely parked back here.
Exactly, because then what's happening?
That could also work.
Yeah, because then the people who have to come out and do the that are giving them the delivery, they're at least walking along the sidewalk before they cross.
I think they should stay on the right side of the building. They stay on the sidewalk and don't interact with traffic at all.
In that side area?
Yeah, right along the building.
So what's interesting is that's a very heavily used part of the parking lot. There's a whole contingent of people who shop at Target that have chosen that as their primary. Everyone's got their spot around
over
Target,
here,
basically
or
at this
where?
one. Yeah, right where and above where the cursor is there.
I think we lost Ashley temporarily. Let me just get this.
Because I've actually parked over there a couple times recently, and I find there's a lot of traffic there, and you get a lot of customers walking in from that end as well. So
This is busy here. This is busy definitely in here. This is dead. And just the farther out you go this way, this is all dead. And to the point of where Tesla should go, while I like this logistically, if you put it somewhere over here, I guess because of Tesla has those boxes They have to be up against
In the
something.
landscaped area, so we don't lose additional parking.
Yeah,
Also, Target wouldn't let us use that area.
yeah, the only thing I don't like is we're losing trees then.
And it's in the
We're not
most visible
losing-
spot.
Huh?
I don't,
And it's in the most visible spot.
Yeah,
I don't believe we're losing any trees. I think we're replacing one.
just one?
No, your landscape plan says you're going to take it all down and replace it all. So I think it's a net zero number of trees replaced versus new, but
But they're going to replace them, but they're going to replace them all, but they're all going to be brand new, as
Right.
opposed to leaving what's there.
right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of that.
Is there any chance it can be in the lower left corner?
Right, so down here, at least there's this one tree, it looks like.
Or I was thinking even, there's a row of trees in the landscape island, if you keep going
Left this way? Oh, yeah. Can
there.
you put it in here?
Yeah, the problem with that is just the distance from the utility. We're already at a pretty far extent from the
Oh,
utility
so you're to the
feed.
utility?
Yeah,
So if I look at this, how many spaces are you trying to put in?
we're taking up 16.
Oops.
And I believe that area where you're proposing there, there's a slope, so we wouldn't be able to.
Of those 16, one or two of them will be set up for handicap?
One.
One, okay. I couldn't quite.
I think we're going to have Karen take a look at this in terms of tree removal. She may say, these trees are decorative, they're not that special, so replacing them with something better may be fine. But she may say, these have gotten pretty old, pretty big, and they're decent trees, and maybe we should think of something alternative.
Try to keep them.
Try to keep some of them.
I'm sorry, you said you're,
Yes.
I didn't see that. Required aisle for it?
If you can, do you have the plan to put up here?
I had the plan, where it went, I don't know. Because I have the drive up.
So C3 stall number 1D.
Is this the one
That's a
Ashley
van
said?
accessible stall.
You need an 8-foot strip lane or accessible stall
For Monroe,
or ADA.
I believe for a van accessible, you can do 11-foot stall with 5-foot aisle as an
I've
alternative.
only ever seen an 8-foot stall, 8-foot aisle.
I've had that requested before in New York, but we've done the 11-foot and 5
Yeah,
alternative.
and maybe that's, I'm not that great with the building code, but it might be that the New York State building code requires 8 by 8
Yeah,
and 8.
we can adjust for that 1 foot.
Right. Yeah, you have the space for it, it's just, yeah.
That's not a problem.
So which, did you want me to bring up?
He
You got it?
figured it out, yeah.
Okay.
I did have some other questions on some of the comments. On comment 2, the second to last line, it says proposed 5 spot reduction, but that's only 3. Number 2,
Yeah, I had 3 up above and I had 5 down below.
okay, cool. And then it says also, see attached resolution, exert, and parking study. Casey from Kimley Horn was helping me with this. She's doing the other application.
Right.
She said that in that parking study, it said there was an excess of 79 parking stalls afterwards. Can I get a copy of that as well? Perfect. I believe Ashley said that we need to be referred to Orange County. Do you refer us there, or should I pursue that separately? Okay. Done.
Question is the board ready to send that if you're Still talking about where to put the spaces.
Yeah, I think we should wait.
Yeah.
I will say Target is very particular on where they allow us to put these. So I don't think I have much room to get this moved based on our current lease agreement, but, you know, I'm all open to all ears, just need to put that out there.
Yeah, I think that we're going to ask Karen to take a look at it. And then I think on the basis of what Karen says, our landscape architect will go from there.
Perfect. For comment, oh no, I'll do that. I'll do that. Oh, it talks about lighting. I don't think we're proposing any lighting. I'm sorry, I wasn't the original design manager on this project. It's only the existing lighting that's remaining there. We're not touching it.
There was,
We're putting an antenna on one of the light posts.
I'm sorry?
We're putting an antenna on one of the light posts. Maybe that's what looked like it.
Was-
Okay. And then I thought I saw a comment about electric under the retaining wall. That's the site lighting electric. That'll be rerouted in construction, but we'll make that clear on the revision.
What does the cabinet look like up?
The cabinet is not lit up. It's a white box about the size of a fridge. It's the best way to describe it. I don't know if it's relative. I think the dimensions are on there, yeah.
So this is saying about two.
That's the actual post. The center one is the cabinet.
Oh, I'm talking about the post.
Oh, no,
sorry.
no, no. The post is it's a little bit taller than me, so maybe like 6'2".
Okay. Very wide, but.
No, 2 feet wide.
But it's just a plain box. Is it lit?
The word Tesla is backlit, so
Okay.
it's red, but it's not very bright, not visible from the street.
Okay. And there'll be no advertising.
No
going
advertising
on?
at all.
Okay.
No.
I just
Are they
wanna
the
make
same ones that are over at New Woodbury Commons?
Those are older. This is the newer generation. So that one is white and red. This one's a lot more understated. The bottom is black, and then the center of the skin is gray.
They have this one at.
Newburgh. Yeah, there's a new one in Newburgh. You wouldn't have seen it yet. They didn't
Okay.
finish construction. I can try to find some pictures.
So this is the aisle that's facing out toward the drive as you come in?
Yeah, so this would be looking at it if you were pulling into the parking stall. That's what would be in front of you.
That's what's facing a.
Larkin. Oh, sorry, I'm by
That's
BJ's.
BJ's.
Sorry, by BJ's. So this is the entrance aisle coming in, it's right in here? Okay.
Who owns the property if before you make that horseshoe right, you make that first left into that dead end area?
That's RD management? I think it's another pad.
Okay.
Just to understand the nature of this project, so Tesla is actually leasing from Target to do this?
I'm not sure the nature
Of that agreement, but, okay, but, okay, so when EV vehicle users use these Tesla chargers, do they pay for that service? How does that work?
Yeah, you pay the charge just like if you were getting gas.
Okay, so there's a payment module built into the,
Nope, it's very simple. You pull up to the
RD.
charging station, you plug it in, you sit in your car.
okay. Sounds like it.
Are they 20 feet long or 18? And you have bollards to protect the chargers? So, yeah, I think we're going to get some more input. You have some items to follow up with. Anything else we need to deal with? Is this a type 2 action?
It is, so the board could classify it as type 2 this evening.
Okay, would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Dylan Penn,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
All right, so this isn't subject to the environmental review process, and we'll keep it moving for the next meeting. The next meeting would be,
We have February 13th and 18th. Submission is the 30th. No,
Thursday.
a Thursday. The day
come on a
before a
Friday?
very important holiday.
You didn't want to come on a Friday?
So when you submit, make a note on your submission that the 18th won't work, so we don't put you on that one.
I'll forward the plans to Karen. Yep.
And we're holding off on GML to the next submission, correct? All right.
And my revision is just resubmit the same way.
Yes, but only 7 copies, not 12.
We're losing fast.
That's an
Maybe. Maybe we need Tesla ones. So, any other questions you have? All right. So, and if you do, just feel free to call the office, and Noreen can forward it to whomever, or if you need to talk to Sean directly. All right? Thank you. Have a good night. All right.
Yes.
So Walmart expansion is not here?
I'm not sure what's going on with him. He wanted to add, he keeps referring to the old project as his permit. So I said, permit's issued from the building department. So he came back and he says, no, well, we didn't show up in September because I forgot. I said, but you haven't resubmitted since September. Thank you. So I sent him Sean's comments and said, revise the original application with Sean comments on them, submit for next month for that project, but the expansion is on for this month. Okay. I don't know where he is.
So, okay, well, they're not here. We're not going to do anything. So we'll table it to whenever they decide that they will appear. Anything, Ashley, you want to bring up before you hang up?
No, nothing else from me, and thanks for letting me zoom in tonight.
You're welcome. Feel better.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
You too. Good night. All right, let me hang this up.
She would have been wheezing sitting here.
On if you want to. We're going to do some minutes here, hopefully.
Happened to Walmart.
No, I did not get to complete the review on the June minutes, but I did have a very nice holiday, so there is stuff.
That was more important.
All right, so let me do the ones that I was able to get to, which are the ones I got sent. which one is October 12th. I sent this to everybody. I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look at it. Sorry, October 1st. October 1st? Wouldn't have been October 1st.
That was a special meeting.
This was the special meeting, okay, for Monroe Commons.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had typo and type stuff. The only question I had is, and actually maybe Sean, you could listen to this real quick. Mr. Worsted with Creighton Manning spoke about how with the Dodge connector improvement,
Doge.
Doge?
Sorry.
Oh, D-O, was it D-O-G-E?
Thanks.
D-O-G-E, I think it is.
The Dodge connector was right here.
So, please, you have this,
Oh.
so you
Yeah, I
can
saw
make
the
the
email
corrections.
this afternoon.
So, because last week,
No,
or
it's
last time.
D-A-J. Dodge.
D,
D-A-J.
okay, so just D-A-J.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Sorry.
All right, so wherever it says Dodge, it's D-A-J.
Yep, I'll fix it.
Road. Or
Boulevard.
Boulevard. Okay, thank you. Yes. All right, so bottom line is, who do we have here? Members present. We were all present, so we can approve it.
Later.
Good night.
Hey,
So, subject to the revisions that I sent already and changing the name to Dodge. I'll make a motion that we approve the October 1st, 2024 minutes. May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Dylan Penn.
Aye.
All right, so that one's approved, and then I have 10. And we were all present, so this one can get approved. This one I think was also just,
I didn't get a chance to look at it today.
this was typos. This was the one Mike and Drizzy spoke for Finney. It was the Finney was on it. So subject to the revisions, may I have a motion to approve the October 10th, 2024 minutes?
So moved.
Pick one.
Pat's first, Jeff's second.
Okay.
Dylan Penn.
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Excuse me.
God bless
Okay.
you.
So those are approved. You were not able to do the June, you said? June, okay. But then you also had September. Didn't you mark those up? Send those to me. I think you had marked them up. You had notes on the pages, I seem to
Yeah,
recall.
I'm gonna have to go back and review that.
Okay, so you can handle those, I've handled mine. We need December, and I want these within a week for today. All right? Start doing this. It was case law where it became a problem, so it's happening more frequently. A case out of Cairo. Because this was already discussed. So with that, if there's no other business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries, meeting is